Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hey, welcome back. How is this? Thank you for being here. A special welcome to all of the reunion classes, especially the class of 1974 on your 50th reunion. I'm delighted to see so many friends and Hood alums back in the audience. And I think I probably know every single one of you. I'm Nancy Galice, the Vice President of Institutional Advancement and the class of 81. So love seeing so many people that I knew from my times at Hood, especially the class of 84 that came out in huge numbers. Yay! And everybody looks exactly the same. Anyway, it's a real privilege to be here and introduce the state of the college, which is great, and the happening at Hood is outstanding. And it is certainly my honor and privilege to introduce President Andrea Chapdelaine. And I have my prepared remarks, but I can tell you I'm throwing them away because this introduction has to come from the heart. 9 years ago, Andrea took the helm at Hood College as our president. And with her incredible leadership and vision, she has made a lasting impact on this institution. And I can say, and I think I say for every one of you, thank you. During her tenure,
Don't get me crying.
we have seen incredible growth on all spectrums: enrollment, fundraising, partnerships, academic programs, reputation. It goes on and on and on. And I have had the privilege of working as part of President Chapdelaine's senior team and traveling across the country, introducing her to, I think, every one of you. And I used to think that I could play the I know that alum game. But Andrea has surpassed me, and I can tell you she knows every single alum. And we play that game quite regularly, and I think she's beating me. So I'm not happy about that, but I'll forgive her. So it's just a real testament to Hood that she has led us to where we are today, and she's going to tell you more about that. But I am particularly really proud of what she's done here, and that she has this opportunity to make an impact on what was once a women's college, at the same time being closer to her family. So the stars aligned. Certainly they aligned for Hood about 10 years ago, and I'm confident they're going to align for Connecticut College in the next couple months. So indeed, it is my honor and privilege to introduce my colleague, my friend, President Andrea Chapdelaine.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I thought I might get a little emotional at the end of this talk, but Nancy really set me up there. And thank you so much. That standing applause was really meaningful. I think Nancy was a little generous in who knows more alum game, but it has truly been, and it's lovely as you walked in today to see so many friends. And as I've said many, many times, Dave and I made this difficult decision to be closer to family, but we know we're also leaving our Hood family, and that makes it very hard. So I'm glad that we will have the time together over the next few days to have conversations and to say fare thee well, not goodbye, and be assured that Hood is in my heart, and I'm always a phone call away to provide whatever support, but I know what I'll be doing is cheering on Hood to even better things as we leave. So my job this morning is to bring you up to date on what is going on at the college. I know you receive our amazing marketing materials, and so you see a lot of this news depending on your vintage, whether it's through the magazine or through social media or email. But so I'm just going to try to hit some highlights, tell you a couple stories that I think are especially meaningful, but certainly try to allow plenty of time for questions before we go on to the rest of the day. I did want to acknowledge that, as always, I have an amazing team that helps put all these things together. So this is my last, so I really want to make sure I take the time to thank Jeff, who's been my able tech guy all of my years here. Has made the magic happen. And I have several members of the senior team here with me today. I'm not going to introduce one of them because she gets special notice at the end. You met Nancy. Diane Wise is here, who really every day makes me look like I know what I'm doing. And Lori Ward, our Vice President for Marketing and Communications. And of course, my partner in life, Dave, is here with us as well. And then I'm happy to say our chair of the board, Tanya Finton, is with us. And we also have several members of the board as well as trustee emeriti with us. So I'm not going to introduce them all by name just in case I missed one as they were coming in. But if you don't mind standing and being cheered for all the good and support you've given to the college in that role. Oh, it's good. And if you're wondering, you do not have to be named Susan to be on our board. So, what is going on at Hood? So we'll talk a little bit about some events and news, some updates. Everybody always wants to hear about the wonderful care of our beautiful campus. As we know, the sense of place for each and every one of you is very strong and important to the college. So I always like to highlight that. Talk a little bit about the current strategic plan and where we are on some important initiatives to strengthen and secure the future of the college. And then, of course, talk a little bit about what happens after the moving van comes. So, with regard to a quick snapshot of where is Hood today. So, as you see in the upper left-hand corner, those are the number of programs we are currently offering. That is a lot of growth over the past several years. I was preparing my final remarks for the board, and certainly because of the great vision and innovation of our faculty under the leadership of Provost Ricker, we have added 20 new academic programs in the past 9 years to the college. So that people talk about the glacial pace of change in private higher education. Hood has certainly defied that stereotype. Also a number of master's degrees, and I'll talk about that. As I was getting started, we had just received approval and we're about to launch our first doctoral program. Happy to say we've just recently added a few more to that mix. As well as more recently, becoming much more involved in certificate programs. As we know, this is an important new market as people are trying to reskill and upskill. We also have 4+ programs, and you'll see later in a slide how many of our graduating seniors are choosing to stay at Hood for a master's degree through those programs. And it gives them, if they stay on track, a nice jump start to that so that they can finish the master's more quickly than if they had not started as an undergrad. We are 2,000 plus strong. You can see that the trend has continued, that our graduate programs over the past several years have been growing while our undergraduate has seen minor growth, which is frankly a really good thing in a very tough market. I'll talk about that in a moment. Continuing to be very proud that we are a place where all are included and welcomed and can forge a successful path to that degree here at Hood. I don't have to tell you, there's a lot of conversation, shall we say, about the cost of higher ed and the amount of debt. So I think this is always really important for me to share with you and then ask you to carry forward that a lot of that is simply not true for most small colleges. And the perception that we are all of the elite, where it costs, I don't know what Harvard's going to cost next year, $100,000, and is just simply not the case, and it's not the case here at Hood. So thanks to all of your support and many others, we are able to offer generous scholarships to our students so that every student of promise has that opportunity, which transformed your life. And so you can see on average, our students are actually paying just under $30,000 a year. I'm not saying that's always an easy lift, but it's certainly not what you hear in the news. In addition to that, we're very proud to show that our students graduate with fairly low debt, and more importantly, the default rate, meaning that they pay it back. So that tells us that investment really was a strong return. When I look at that, I just recently had to buy a car, and I'm like, huh, that's nothing compared to buying a car these days. So I think a Hood degree is worth a little bit more. So we're very proud of that, and we will continue to see that investment in scholarships and support. Okay, so that's our snapshot. Nancy mentioned this, and of course, marketing takes every opportunity to brag about the college. We have increasingly seen over the past several years a number of national watchdogs, if you will, of higher education take notice of Hood, and we're very, very proud of that. One of the things I think in this long list that I am most proud of, you'll see under the U.S. News and World Report rankings, best undergraduate teaching program. So we were acknowledged across the country for the quality of experience we're providing for our undergraduates. I know you will say that was true of your experience, and the thing I feel most proud of as I leave is what was true the day I met Hood will be true the day I leave Hood. Our mission, our focus on strong curriculum that supports and transforms lives, it has been strong, will continue to be strong, and will continue to be the heart of this campus. A couple other things I wanted to mention that one of the things that when I was hired by the board is to really lean into Frederick. Those of you who have not been here for a while see how different Frederick is. It is now the fastest growing area of the state of Maryland. And so it would be foolish for Hood to sit on the sidelines as that transformation takes place. And I firmly believe so goes Hood, so goes Frederick, and vice versa. We are an important part of the economic, cultural, social fabric of this community. It's consistent with our mission, and most importantly, provides our students wonderful opportunities for internships, service, civic engagement, both while they are here and on to successful alumni. Frederick's a pretty cool town. Our graduates want to stay here, and so everywhere you go now in Frederick, you will meet Hood alum making a difference in this community. Several of you in this room are examples of that. So with regard to that, we locally have received the Touching Lives Award, which is a community award recognizing service to the community. One example I will give you was this year that was given to Coach Barber, our men's lacrosse coach, and the entire team because they do a tremendous amount of service supporting a local breast cancer fund. They also do a number of other service activities, as do all our scholar athletes. So we also have been recognized as having empowered leaders. You'll be happy to know that two of our women in my employment have received this award. First is Tammy Simpson, our Vice President for Community and Inclusivity, who is not with us today. She sends her regrets. Her college friends, we're all getting together this weekend in Nashville, and she came to me several months ago and she said, I have skipped these annual events for several years now, and I said, it would be ironic if I have to tell you to stay for Hood reunion when you have the opportunity to be with your college friends. So that's where she is, having a grand time based on the text I received last night. So, secondly, our Professor Manikoff, Dr. Manikoff oversees the Doctoral and Organizational Leadership Program and has been very involved in expanding that program into the Frederick community in partnership with the Frederick Chamber. So very proud of that recognition as well. And then finally, I wanted to recognize that the CASE Professional Year Award is given at a national level. If anybody's in this space, CASE is essentially the national organization for college fundraisers and marketers. And so that is a national award across all the sector of higher education. And it went to none other than Nancy Gillese. And since you all know Nancy, you know I don't have to explain why that would be the case. She is phenomenal in her work. Okay, so let me bring you up to date on some of the things that we've been doing here, depending how recently you've connected into the college. There, you know, a lot of times people hear, I hear this from some of you, you know, we're starting all these new programs and they're all, you know, kind of in the health sciences and the tech and the hard science sector, and, you know, what happened to the liberal arts? You know, Andrea, is that still important? Of course it is. It is absolutely critical. And the faculty over the past several years, I'm recognizing our dean of the faculty back there, Dr. Paige Eager, led this effort very ably, went through an entire revision of the core. And I can reassure you that the general education requirements still are very much about taking courses in English, taking courses in history, taking courses in the sciences, and so on and so forth. About half a student's curriculum is still very much focused on having that breadth in the liberal arts. In addition to that, we do, of course, still have liberal arts majors that are thriving here. And on that note, I wanted to say that a few years ago, the English faculty innovated an MFA in creative writing. It's a low residency program. So a cohort will spend about 2 weeks here working with noted authors, both our own faculty and others coming into the program. And then we'll be writing and getting counsel over that and complete the master's program. So very excited to start that program. For those of you who are local, those authors will be doing open mic, if you will, poetry readings at night, book readings. So you can watch for that. That's going to happen a little bit later this month. We also have just received approval from the state of Maryland to start a PhD in counselor education and supervision. And this isn't a common one, so let me explain. We have had incredible success in our master's in counseling program. Definitely our fastest growing graduate program over the past several years. That has become very difficult to expand because it requires, as we would all hope, for counselors to have very close supervision and training as they're learning how to be counselors. So in order to be able to manage the demand of that program, we needed more faculty. Hiring, as you can imagine, counseling faculty right now is incredibly difficult because counselors are in such short supply. It's like trying to hire nursing faculty, very, very difficult. And so, again, the innovation and the brilliance of our faculty decided a little bit of a grow your own model. So this PhD, which is an accredited program, we're going through that process now, will enable our students to be supervised not only by their faculty, but by people who are nearing that PhD level and could provide that level of supervision. And then, of course, when they complete the program, they can be full faculty contributing to the program as well. So hopefully we will keep them in that role. We also have added, our nursing program is now by far our largest undergraduate. So nursing, for some of you, were in the nursing program here, and we brought it back about 12 years ago now, and it has grown and grown and grown. I think we had about 30 this year. 34, of course, Provost knows the exact number, good. The 34 nursing students graduate this year, and they're all passing their boards, of course. Great program. And so, again, we are starting to see in the local community and from our nursing alumni the interest in advanced degrees. So we will be launching both the MSN and the DNP over the course of the next year. Those will largely be online programs because practicing nurses in their schedules, as we know, is complicated, so this will give them access to that education. We also have added, based on the strength of our computer science, cybersecurity, bioinformatics program, a program specialized in health informatics. We all know about health data and how issues of privacy and sharing data and accurate data and so forth. So again, an area that our partners in the healthcare systems said is much needed. I'm going to talk a little bit about the personnel, and then I'll come back to the virtual tour. So just a couple of updates. Some of you may have heard me talk over the past several years that probably one of the hardest things for not just Hood, I heard this across all of my presidential colleagues coming out of COVID, was the difficulty of retaining and finding people in the student service area. As you can imagine, as hard as COVID was for all of my faculty and staff, it's especially difficult for those frontline people who are trying to help and support the students through what we all know is an incredibly difficult time, and there was a lot of mental health, anxiety, et cetera, in those students. So not a lot of burnout and a lot of turnover. And so we experienced that. We worked really hard to hire. There was periods of times where there was one person left in the entire student affairs function trying to hold it all together. And a lot of people stepped in, of course, as Hood does, and tried to carry that weight. I say all that in the context to share that I'm happy to say that right now all of our student life positions are filled, and so the students are finally getting the level of support we had hoped for. So in addition to our new Dean of Students, Dr. Johnson, we also have our residence life staff, our student engagement staff, and then we have also added some additional support. So the Director of Inclusive Excellence reports to Vice President Simpson, and his focus is really on providing support to our underserved, our minority students who may need that extra care, and also supporting our diversity organization, so Black Student Union, Latino Student Union, and so forth. So that's really exciting. And there is a big sigh of relief and some gratitude from our students for seeing that the college is really committed to their support in ways that I know they started to feel was not true for a while there, as hard as we were trying. I'm also very excited to say that we have our first dean of our new Delaplane School of Business. He joined us about 6 months ago, and he has already taken it by storm and is starting to develop some new programs, partnerships, outreach to the Frederick community. Again, business for a long time was our largest major. It stands very close to nursing, so very big program. Oh, the virtual tour. I almost forgot Jeff. See, that's why I have Jeff there. So I was talking about all the great work our marketing team does. Am I getting feedback because of both mics? No. And one of the things that the board actually had talked about the need for was to update our virtual tour on our website. So I just want to show you because it's really cool. And you've heard me talk for a while now, so we need a little break from that. So a whole team came in and did these great aerial photos. I'm just going to show you quickly kind of how it works. So this, of course, is on the website, so you can peruse it at your leisure. And so it's complete 360 view, and then it'll take you to specific spots on the campus as well. This is where I'm going to get lost. How do I go back out? Is that right? Thank you. That's why Lori's here to save me from myself. And then the other thing that we did in it, so here's Koblenz, which of course you all know well. And again, gives you that really beautiful 360 view of all the spots on campus. We have an amazing member of our admissions ambassadors who worked on this with others and the admissions counselors to create what he calls hotspots. Some of you, if you follow us on Instagram, may have seen some of these. Bear with me because I've lost his hotspot. I I don't know what's the fastest way to get there. You can't speed it up, right? I'm dragging. Nothing's happening. If I use the mouse, maybe? Thank you. Sorry. There you go. So embedded in this
Put
is
hotspots.
these
Put
fun little
hotspots. Do an interview.
snippets
Hotspot
about
interview.
food.
Do. Hotspots. All right, guys. So this is Hotspots, and we're with,
Cameron. Alyssa.
and we're asking you guys what your favorite hotspot on campus is.
Mine would have to be the dining hall. Mine would also be the dining hall at the ice cream machine.
Thanks, guys. All right, what's up, guys? So we're entering the dining hall here. This is where Cameron and Alyssa said their favorite hotspot on campus is. So if you follow me through the front, as you can see, like they said in the video, hit a 180 real quick. The ice cream machine. So the ice cream machine, major part of the dining hall here on campus. So this will be our main course meals in the back. We first have our True Balance, which is going to be for our common allergens. And then we'll also serve different vegan, pescatarian, kosher food options. And then here on the left, you'll see our main course meals. We'll change it out every day. All right, so here we are in the combo bar area. So as you can see behind me, different types of pizzas, Stromboli's. On the opposite side, we'll have different types of salads in the combo bar. See, we're here with the ice cream, like I was talking about earlier. So let's grab some. Oh yeah, oh my God. Whoa. Go in on this. Dessert sauce, caramel, sprinkles. There you have it. So this is the dining hall, like I said before. Get yourself an ice cream cone while you come in here. Once again, this is Hotspots with Jake Wance. Have a good rest of your day.
So those are throughout the website, throughout the virtual tour. So take a look when you have a chance. I think I can speak with some confidence that people will say I'm a transparent leader, that I share all the good, but I also am honest about the challenges that we're facing. And frankly, you are important to helping us meet those challenges and overcome them. So I would love to be all goodness and light and happiness, but I did want to tell you some of the challenges that not just Hood again, but the higher education is facing. And I think this is things that you know. You can't pick up a paper these days without hearing some of the doom and gloom. As I was talking with a fellow president, I was at a national board meeting the past few days. I said, you know, everybody has been talking about the demographic cliff. So just to explain that for those who might not be familiar, we went through, as we all know as a nation, a pretty significant recession in 2008, 2009. And what that led to is a significant drop in birth rates during those years. Understandably, couples were not feeling comfortable bringing children into the world as they're watching their jobs disappear and so forth. So based on basic math, those students are now college age, but they're not there. Coupled on top of that, COVID led to a lot of people choosing to opt out of college for a period of time. The market, as we know, is extremely strong right now, so people can leave high school and get a job right away. Over time, they're not going to see the salary increases that they would have had they gone to college, but when you have a job right in front of you, you know, that's something that's hard to compete with. So all of those factors have converged, and there is a tremendous shrinking of the higher education market. I don't like to think of this as just a business, but the facts are the facts. And when I think about that image of a cliff, what I would tell you is there is a tidal wave due to a lot of factors that are listed here. And unfortunately, that tidal wave has overtaken many small schools. They've been washed out. They're closing. Every week, I'm hearing about a school that I thought was strong in real trouble, and then sometimes I hear the news that they are shuttering their doors. It's a very sad realization because we know the importance of these schools to the individual prosperity, but also, of course, of our nation, and more important to the cultural richness and the kind of country we want to be. Obviously, as a college president, I'm passionate about that. I believe that very strongly. So all of those factors have been sort of exacerbated by a few things, especially this year. And that includes there's increasing public skepticism about the value of college education. Is it really worth the investment? I can tell you just from money, absolutely. It's very true. Any sound study will show that over the lifetime, your earnings more than outpace whatever investment was made in college. Not for every single individual, but for the vast majority. The cost of doing business, any of you in the business world know this. We are being faced with the same thing. 80% of Hood's budget is labor. And so those labor costs have been increasing. Frederick, its growth means higher and higher cost of living here. So it's finding increasingly difficult to meet the wage needs of our employees in such a high cost of living area. And then, as I alluded to earlier, we continue to see high levels of mental health challenges, academic preparedness, sort of the tail of the COVID. It's not over. It won't be for a long time. It's going to take a while for those students, all the way from kindergarten up, to kind of overcome the decay that occurred during those COVID years when education was so hard to provide for students. So all of those together have really put those pressures, and that's why you're seeing that. So don't want to just say, and that's the bad news. The good news is, if I go back to my analogy, the water is lapping at Hood's feet, but it certainly is not going any further. Hood has managed to be strong through this. We, as I said, have managed to maintain and even slightly grow our undergraduate enrollment, thanks to President Church many, many years ago having the foresight to add graduate programs. Many years before. Now a lot of schools are trying to do that as a way to help their revenue, but of course they're entering a very crowded market. We already stand strong in that space in this region and are known for the quality of those programs. And of course the decision, as difficult as it was, to go co-ed 20 plus years ago. All of those things, as well as more recently, the tremendous success in fundraising that the college realized through the Forging the Future campaign. Just to remind you, if you haven't seen it enough, raised nearly $75 million to support the college. And then thank you. But you're applauding each other because it's your support that made that happen. And then, of course, we were very, very fortunate this past year, I'm getting ahead of my slides, but who cares, to receive the gift from the Hodson Trust, $54 million to support scholarships. So all of those factors together, and yes, I like to say my amazing team and the amazing faculty and the amazing board and alumni and all the great community that support this college means that that water won't get any higher than maybe our ankles. We'll be fine. Just wanted to kind of end very quickly with a few success stories that I think bring some color to the conversation about the kinds of difference we're making each and every day for our students. So first I thought many of you came to Hood, maybe not intending, but left with the intent to be in education, which is great. And so I wanted to share, there's a program that Maryland offers called the Teacher of Promise. We also know that, like healthcare, there's been a tremendous turnover in education, and retaining young teachers is a real challenge for the profession. So the Teachers of Promise was done as a way to reduce the level of attrition that occurs in the early years of K through 12 education professionals. So these students were selected from across the state as Teachers of Promise, teachers who would make a real difference in the lives of the children that they teach. And so they were selected for a program that pairs them with highly successful, regarded teachers across the state to provide mentoring, to provide workshops, to have the real conversations about, yes, you know how to put together a study guide, but what happens when a child is falling apart in your classroom? Those real conversations. How do you deal with the parent challenges, the administrative changes, all of those types of things, which of course the students say, why didn't I know, until you experience it, right? So I'm very happy to say they're all in this program. I know some of these students well. They are going to be amazing teachers, and so it's really exciting to see them being recognized for that and given that additional support. And then just as a quick fun fact, one of the mentor teachers is actually one of our alum as well, who received Montgomery County Teacher of the Year award last year. So that just shows you how great we are doing in terms of bringing wonderful teachers to the group. Many in this room again, right? Another fun story, kind of in a very different area. We have grown, as I mentioned earlier, our computer science programs just went through accreditation a few years ago, very strong. And so Jake Howell, one of our recent graduates, is working for, I can see the Arizona Diamondbacks. If you're like me, yes, that's baseball. It's a Major League Baseball team. And he actually was able to develop a system to really support all of their front office administrative functions. Pretty amazing, which I'm sure is going to go much further than that. And the really fun thing is he got to get one of the championship rings because he was part of the team. Back to our sciences. So Blazer Bloom. You have probably saw the news that we expanded our environmental science program, studies program, to include sustainability several years ago. So it's a much more holistic approach of how do we preserve, conserve, and sustain our natural resources, focused on water, fuel, and food. And so there's areas in faculty expertise in all of those areas. Group of the faculty and our students got together, you can see them here, and submitted to a national competition by the Department of Energy regarding how to create more environmentally friendly energy. And they actually won. Only 15 teams across the country were selected. They've been given a research grant that they will spend the next year and a half developing their idea and then present that at a national conference. What they're actually working on, hence the name, is they're trying to take algae and make it a friendly fuel, so an alternative fuel as opposed to a fossil fuel. I know nothing about this, but I know it's really, really hard, but they're on it. And then a vision that I have to give to Provost Ricker. We had talked about this early in her tenure, that wouldn't it be nice that if the college had a moment over the course of the year to pause and really recognize the great success of our students and all the wonderful research that they are doing, their service work in the community, the internships, the study away travel that they had done, as well as our faculty and the work of our faculty. And so we created that. It's called Spires. You can see what Spires stands for, but of course that's also an allusion to Frederick and the great spires downtown. And this kind of was all set to launch when COVID hit, so it had a couple of years of rocky starts. But now we do have a full day where there are no classes. Over 500 attended this year. Well over 100 of our students presented at the conference, and it's just a wonderful example. Some of those posters are in the library right now, so if you have a moment, you can walk around and see all the great work. And it's not just, it's visual performances, it's art, it's all areas of the college. And then I also wanted to recognize this is a special year for the college. We are celebrating the 30th year of our African American Studies program at Hood. That is amazing. And again, some of you were instrumental. You were the ones petitioning administration, petitioning my predecessors to say, this is important, this needs to happen here at Hood. And when you talk to Professor Zaki, who is in the middle here, who is really the founder of the program, she really gives credit to the students asking for change in the curriculum to make this happen. I think you all know the star also in this picture, Dean White. She was here yesterday. It was wonderful to see her. As well as the 50th year of our Black Student Union. So we had a reception for that as well last night. And I am incredibly proud that we've been able to sustain and grow those programs over the years. So much to celebrate. This was a great event. Brittany Cooper was a keynote speaker after the reception, and just, I don't think the students had words by the end of her talk. They were so blown away. And of course, these programs together have brought amazing speakers over the years to Hood, and will continue to do so. I just want to give you a little snippet of our most recent commencement. It rained. It was not this weather, but it was still a joyful day. So one of the things I'll point out to you, 28 legacy graduates in the graduating class, as well as 16 in the graduate program graduates. And you can see, as I mentioned before, 38 of those graduate degrees are people who already had a Hood degree. We now have what we call kind of hat trick. They have their undergraduate, they have a master's, and now they have a doctorate. And we had a couple of those in this year's class, as well as several that have moved from the, you can see 18 of our seniors this year will stay with us to continue a master's degree. So our students love Hood and they like hanging around. And I've always said that I think one of the biggest testaments of your support and love for your alma mater is when you send one of your children here. That really speaks to me very deeply, and you can see that is continuing its strength. I know right now Legacy kind of has a bad name but that's not what it's about here at Hood. It's really about trying to provide the best opportunity, and that's a tremendous testament to how you feel about your alma mater. So just some fun pictures. A few tears, you can see that too. I certainly had tears. All right, so I said just to finish up, I will talk a little bit about what's going on campus. So the big thing happening this summer is what we call our East Campus Parking Project. We have, if you go around that side of campus, you'll see there's a gravel lot. It's still a very difficult kind of roadway to navigate. So for many years, we've been focusing on how do we redesign that so it's more safe for cars, for pedestrians, and frankly provides a little more parking, which is still the #1 complaint from students. I say if they're complaining, Diane always says this, if they're complaining about parking, Andrea, it's a win, right? that's a given. So anyway, that actually will entail taking down Strong Cottage as well as Carson Cottage. I know people don't feel really sad about Carson Cottage. It's a little bit of an eyesore at this point. Strong, I know held some memories for some of you. We're around the years when the fire happened. So it is, but it is beyond useful restoration. 2 Christmases ago, it had a massive pipe freeze on the 3rd floor, did significant damage, made the building uninhabitable. So it's actually not been used since that time. So it is time to sunset Strong. Broadbeck Hall, speaking of other catastrophes that befell the college. Yeah, I guess, there's some stories I could tell about some days that were pretty tough, but they just really fade in memory of all the joy my time here has given me. So Broadbeck Hall caught fire. It'll be 3 years in September, right? And we have been, since then, working very hard to put the funding together to restore it. The 3rd floor where the ghosts are has not been used in a number of years, except by the ghosts, which of course they're very happy about that. And we really wanted to fully use that beautiful building and restore it to its full use. We also, as you know, it's a great entertainment space with 1 bathroom and not great accessibility. So we said if we're going to do this, let's go big or go home. So we worked on plans that will give access throughout the building, restore the 3rd floor to use, as well as provide more modern, if you will, amenities and use on the 1st floor, so it can really be used not only for performances, but for rentals and so forth. So help bring a few more dollars to the college as well. That's all well and good, but that has now led to a little bit of back and forth with the insurance company about what is restoration, what is necessary to bring it to code with that level of, we're required to do anyway, versus what is truly enhancement. So the building, of course, was fully insured, but we're getting closer, and I hope over the next year we will be able to start really getting in there and restoring that building. We also will have a gap there, so I would be remiss not to say if this is a building that speaks to your heart, we would welcome gifts to support that effort. And then finally, the last big project on the campaign that we're still working on is a renovation and expansion of the Hodson Science Center. This, as you can imagine, with the growth in healthcare, nursing, counseling, all of those programs, which are now housed over in our School of Behavioral and Health Sciences across 7th Street, that also has led to a lot of demand in our basic science programs. Those labs are quite dated at this point, and they need restoration and renovation. So we are in the process of kind of working through the design. Everything to build anything, you know this, costs more than one anticipates these days, but we are very close to that, and we probably have about 75% of the funding at this point needed for that. So that too is something over the next year we will be working on. I guess I can't say we anymore. I gotta work on that. Anyway, okay, and then finally, I think in the interest of time, I'm actually gonna skip over this. Yep. And just finish up. So I wanted to close by, I just gotta get my notes here, which I've completely lost. So I wanted to just end by saying thank you, and thank you for the kind recognition at the beginning, but more importantly, thank you for all the support you've given me over the years. There were days where a note from an alumni really made a difference and helped me feel strong enough to carry on some of the more challenging days. Like I said, those I don't even remember what they are. But what has been really true, whether it was here on campus, California, Arizona, doesn't matter, I see where you all are, just the warmth of the embrace of Hood. And that is something that is why it's very hard to leave. And I know that will carry on, and I know in that regard, you will give that same warm embrace, that same level of support to our interim president-elect, Dr. Debbie Ricker. Please stand up. As I know everybody here on campus would, just very quickly a word about Debbie. You can read all the social media, so I'm not going to tell you all her great credentials, of which there are many. She, like me, began the path from faculty member to academic administrator to provost. She has been with me for 8 years. She walked into a provost position that was being held by the president at the time. It was empty. I was trying to do both jobs. And she kids, but I'm sure it was a little daunting. I handed her probably, 4 pages, single spaced. Here's your to-do list. Go with that. This is the danger of when your president was a provost and, knows all the things. Well, gosh darn it, she didn't get it all done. I was like, that's pretty amazing. So, and that list is old. She's gone on to do so much more. So much of what you've heard me talk about is due to her great work as well as the other team members. So I just share that with all of you to know that I don't hesitate for a minute to worry about the leadership over the next year. With the amazing strength of the board and the rest of the team, Hood is in even better hands than I can hold it. So please do embrace, welcome her, and have fun the rest of the weekend. Thank you. So Jamie and Emily are here with mics, happy to take questions.
Deborah Kohler, 74. I'm wondering what's the male-female ratio in the student population now?
I think it's 65-35, give or take a percentage. We had been a little closer to 60-40, but the growth in the nursing program we do have great male nurses, some of which have received awards this year, but obviously few and far between. So the national average is about 60% female at small colleges, so we're pretty on par with that. And the graduate program is about 50-50, given the mix between science and education in those programs. Good question. Carol.
How did the FAFSA form impact the enrollment of admission?
Yeah, I did kind of quickly jump over that. So the free form for financial aid was significantly delayed. I'm sure many of you know this. Didn't really become fully functional until February. And so students and their families have been scrambling to complete that. What that meant for Hood, we usually on October 1st will start accepting students for the following year, and we provide their financial package when we accept them. So instead of October, parents having the information, families having the information they needed to make the financial decisions, they are still waiting for it, some of them. So we really could not give a full picture of financial aid until about mid-May, so 2 weeks after the usual decision date. So this has significantly delayed the deposits in our first year and our transfers. Many of them are still waiting for that information. I cannot say enough about our admission team and our financial aid team and how hard they've been working to address this issue. So when I looked at the numbers, we are currently about 30 from our goal. So honestly, not as badly as I feared. The average across the country is about 30% down right now. So it's going to be a very interesting, so for these challenged schools, life is going to get that much harder. And so I'm optimistic as we resolve some of these financial issues, we'll get to where we need to go. Thank you. Really good question.
Barbathke, class of 74.
Hi.
Now, a question about the athletics and the big change in the last 50 years over the athletic facilities. How has that impacted the student life and student enrollment even?
So everybody, not everybody, but as we know, most students now in K through 12 are involved in some kind of organized sport, and that is a driving force for college decision making now. So most students are interested in playing sports. Of our current 295 first-year students who have committed to Hood, I think 180 of them are athletes. So that gives you, now, over the entire student body, it's closer to 50 to 50 people come, they decide they don't want to play a sport, et cetera. But it's huge, and so investment in athletics is absolutely critical to the continued strength of the institution. So some of you, I hope, got to the esports talk yesterday. So that actually is a thriving part of our athletic program now. And if you haven't heard the news, I said I'm coming back for this. We will launch women's ice hockey this fall. So, and again, just to give you a sense of what that can do, we have 27 young women joining us in the first year class to play hockey here. Canada, Minnesota, Texas, I mean, across, not just across our country, but international as well. So it really does kind of change your footprint depending on the sport. So November 6th, I think, is the opening game. So, and it will be streamed, so you can watch it. Oh, that's right, we were live streaming. Hi to everybody out there in the world. They're probably long gone at this point, but forgot to say that.
What support and recognition are you providing to LGBTQ plus students?
Thank you for the question, and a great question as we're in Pride Month. As I mentioned, our Queer Student Union is part of that group that we brought the Director of Inclusive Excellence in to support. It is, I would say, our second largest student organization in terms of activity and engagement. Very strong student leaders who, not surprisingly, are in that group and also in other student organizations. So there are SGA presidents, those types of things as well. So more directly, they receive funding like every other student group, quite a bit because they're such a large group. They do a number of programs with support from the Student Engagement Office. And then finally, they work with the other, what we call our diversity groups. So the leadership of the Black Student Union, Latin Student Union, et cetera, all work together to do programming. In addition to that, our Director of Wellness works with our Director of Inclusive Excellence to provide programming and education. Vice President Simpson, and this I would say is across all of these groups, works on policies. So we work on preferred name issues, those types of things to make sure that they feel heard and supported. And then what was and then we also work with our counseling team to provide specialized training for students who have, issues on that. And then I would finally say our chaplain has been an incredible resource for those students as well. Thank you.
How has the Supreme Court decision on not using race for admissions affected Hood?
Not at all. Not at all. So we have the impact of that is really on highly competitive schools that shape their class, if you will. We do not look at race on admission at all. We work hard, as I've talked about, to meet need of all students. So the diversity you see in our class is because students feel welcomed and supported here, and they have opportunity here. So we have not seen a change. It didn't change our policies. We were worried that it would change in terms of interest in students coming to college, that there'd be some concern. There was concern from our students. Does this mean we're going to lose our scholarships? Those types of things. And of course, we reassured them not. There are some states where that has happened, that if you have, we're fortunate to have alum who have created scholarships for students of a certain race, for LGBTQ students, but Maryland passed a law saying those are protected. Those are not affected by the Supreme Court decision. So we're fortunate to be able to assure our students it won't have those kinds of ripple effects either.
Hi, this might be more of a personal question.
That's okay.
So we've seen a lot of great advances in enhancements in housing on campus, especially Blazer Hall and Memorial, and I'm told Smith next. But I had an amazing experience in my time at Hood in the language houses for a couple of years. Can you talk about the state of the language houses now and any plans going on with them, anything like that?
Sure, I'm happy to. So we were maintaining the language houses when I first got here. The problem is students weren't signing up for them. And when we lost the Sunset Apartments and were really squished for space, I said we cannot have empty beds. So we consolidated. So we put kind of languages together to create a house. And within a few years, we couldn't even fill that. Students are not opting for that experience anymore, unfortunately. Some still want it, of course they do, but there's just not a sufficient number of them. We also, as the languages, again, have reduced in size, have had less of the FLTAs, the master's level students who lived in the houses with them and provided that support. So for both of those reasons and the need that we can't just leave empty beds because of the housing demand on campus. That said, we do allow the creation, if you will, of a language suite in Blazer. So if a group of students wants to live together in one of the suites in Blazer or several suites, they can do that as a language group. I'm not sure that we've had a lot of that, but a little. So still hopeful. I will mention it with regard to the core change. The faculty reaffirmed foreign language as one of the global language as one of the requirements for graduation. So we still remain committed. We know how important it is and the value of that. We also have been working really hard. Part of the campaign is to increase the amount of funding and support for study away for our students. I don't want finances to be a reason why some students can't have those transformative experiences. And again, thanks to the support of our donor base, that's been greatly expanded for students. These are all great questions. You must have gotten a degree from a really good school.
This just inspired another question from me. When we went here, I was in 70 to 74, the school stood officially, legally, in a Latin phrase, in loco parentis. Our first year we had house mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had to live on campus except so-called commuter students who live with their parents somewhere else. What you just said makes me think, is there a percentage of students who live in housing provided by Hood, and then others who just can rent an apartment locally. And among those who live in housing provided by Hood, is it all based on the assumption of people who are coming here as single people and can live in a dorm-like setting?
Okay, there was multi-quest pieces. Let me see. So I'm just going to summarize our housing and how it works, and hopefully I'll get there. So first of all, students are required to live on campus for 3 years. Okay, the exception to that is if they live, as you said, locally with their families, they can ask for an exemption to that. And locally is within 50. We were toying with this. Is it still going to be 50? Okay, 30 miles from the campus. Students can, there's lottery and all of that. I'm sure you all went through it about, getting to select your residence hall. But students can choose to live anywhere on campus. There's not, with the exception of Blazer Hall, is reserved for upper class students. If you're an honors student, you can get in there a little bit earlier, if it's available. Waiting list, no surprise, those of you who are staying there, it's quite nice. And Memorial now is completely full, filled right up. So it tells us renovating the residence halls really helps. During COVID, again, a national trend, more and more students were choosing to go to colleges closer to home. I can understand why families, if something happened, to not have to worry about a plane to get your child home. So we saw that too. So the amount of students who do live within 30 miles had increased over the past several years. It's seeming to stabilize now and suspect it might start to drop. Those 27 women from across the country, for example, in this class will start to change that demographic. So to answer your question, overall, I believe in last year's class, I don't have the numbers yet for this year, we ended up, our total student body, 30% were commuter. Yep. So it was a little bit larger than it had traditionally been. It had been about 20% for probably a couple of decades. So what else did you ask? I think I covered. Right. Yes, but we don't, Locust Parentis has gone away. So, students can make their own choices about who they live with and where they live. There is no restrictions on that except the ones I just mentioned in terms of class year. So whatever choices they're making in that room, not our business.
Only provide single bed, twin bed. You don't provide a double bed.
Yes, nobody gets a king. However, I will say we have increasingly seen the request for graduate level housing. We're seeing an increased number of graduate students who are full-time here, who are international, and so they're looking, and of course they are finding Frederick incredibly, it's very hard to find a place to live in Frederick, an affordable place in Frederick as a graduate student. So we have started to provide as much as we have because we don't have a lot of the kind of housing a graduate, especially if they're bringing their family, would be looking for. But some of the homes we own around campus are now occupied by those families, as well as we have graduate assistants, right? So they work full-time across the college as a benefit. They get teaching credits, graduate credits to go to a master's program, and we provide housing for some of them as well on a limb. So that is part of the longer plan for the college, is to figure out how can we provide more of that housing for those students. Mm-hmm. Jamie? Just
To
tell me.
piggyback on that question, how do you do the male-female thing? Is it by floors in some of them, or are they mixed on the floors, or I can understand how Blaze Hall wouldn't be too much of an issue there, but I'm just wondering about the more traditional type dorms like Smith.
Mm-hmm. So we do in Schreiner still have all-female floors, so students can opt for those floors. I think there's also one all-male floor. I'm sorry, these things change every year. So But that's really, and then, so most of the floors are mixed gender. The students then get together and decide what that means in terms of the use of the bathrooms and other rules that they develop based on their own. So for some, if you go into a mixed floor, for example, in Smith, and some of them, the bathrooms will say, you know, one gender only, others don't. We let the students make that decision. These are getting interesting. Aren't we done?
How is the college able to navigate the Israeli-Palestinian conflict
Oh,
on
see,
campus?
I told you. No, I'm teasing. I should not be about something so serious. I am really happy to tell you that our students are activists. I'm proud of that. They care passionately about these issues, but their expression of that activism has been consistent with Hood policies, but more importantly with Hood values. And so we do have policies around protests. I know some of you were probably involved in protests here. And so, you know, the students cannot disrupt classrooms. They cannot protest in buildings where they can be disruptive to the business activities of the college and so forth. And they have honored those. So we have had maybe up to 40 or 50 students at a few protests in the fall. We responded by leaning into our mission. And by that, what I mean, again, Dr. Eager is one of our experts in this area, is the professor who oversees our global studies program. She graciously has offered a number of educational programs. And we really have tried to provide the venue, the space for our students to talk to one another respectfully about these issues. And I knock on wood, it's worked. It's been okay. Some of the students wanted to protest at commencement. I said you can do so peacefully if you want to wear things expressing where you believe on these issues, but you will not disrupt commencement. We provided a space on campus that day. The rain, you know, sort of dampened things for them, but we did have some students who peacefully protested in that space, and again, was not disruptive at all to commencement. So, so far, weathered it well. Tough times, very hard. You know, so the question was, I'm not sure everybody heard it, how did the Jewish students respond to that? As I said, the students have been respectful. They know each other. So, you know, there's not just this faceless person I'm going to scream at. This is somebody I know. And, you know, we may be on opposite sides on this issue, but we're in this group together. We live together. We're on a sport together. So I think for the most part, I will say, you know, we have an Israeli student living here, so somebody from Israel. And so, again, our efforts were to reach out to those students, to our Jewish students, to make sure they felt safe, supported, as well as our Palestinian students. So, you know, not perfect. You can understand this has not been easy for them. And so, but I don't feel like we have exacerbated that feeling of fear that is completely justifiable and understandable. Sure, I think this might be the last question. Yep.
Can you talk about what level of support or kinds of supports are available to people with disabilities? And do you have many students with disabilities in attendance here? Would you know that information?
Yeah, I know some of that. But you know what? I know President-elect Ricker probably can give you even better information. So can we give her the mic?
So the question was about the services we provide for students who have accessibility needs. Yes, that function resides in our Office of Student Success, which is in the Learning Commons. And we have a fantastic new director for that program, Bridget Humphreys. And she has really worked hard to transform our processes for prospective and current students to ensure that not only do we know who those students are and can track and monitor their success, but we can also be accountable for providing the specific accessibility needs that they might have, whether that be in the residence hall or whether that be in the classroom. Right now, at last look, we have just over 150 students on record that we serve that have accessibility needs registered with the office. Now that sounds like a lot, but as you know, not all students use those services. We try to empower them as their own self-advocates to reach out to specific faculty and other offices to lean on those services when and where they need them. And we also know there are probably a lot more students on campus who would be eligible for those services but just haven't come forward yet. So our faculty always try to be really attentive to that. And if there are students in their classrooms who they suspect might have a learning challenge, they're always eager to forward those students to the Student Success Center for follow-up with Bridget to work through those issues and figure out, is this a student who might struggle with an accessibility need, and if so, how do we move forward to accommodate that student as best we can? Again, either in the classroom or outside the classroom.
Thank you, Debbie. All right. You're going to wrap us up?
I am going to wrap you up. Of course, a thank you. No, I do know what I mean. Thank you to everyone. The next official item on our agenda is the luncheon, the brunch, the neighborhood brunch in Koblenz. The class of 74, you know, you're our guests, and we'll be parading in, and we will be recognizing and honoring some of our distinguished alums, as well as a distinguished faculty member. So just join me one more time in thanking President Chapdelaine, wishing her well, and appreciate her. So those of you in Connecticut, do drop by.
Come see me in Connecticut.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day.